Hello everyone, and here we have a new story. Before we get to that, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and be sure to write comments in order to participate in the development of the community. Write how to improve my community, current topics and the stories you are interested in, and much more. I read and listen to all the comments. People write me stories by mail from different countries. There are problems with translation. I apologize for this. I will work on it and try to fix these errors. I want to thank everyone for their support and the people who wrote to me by mail, broadcast news stories. New videos on my channel are published once every 2 days at 7 p.m. Don't forget to put a bell in order not to miss new videos. And now let's go. Hello, I want to tell you my story. I am 35 years old and my wife is also 35 years old. We were classmates together for 17 years. We have children, a girl and a boy. As it turned out, my wife has been cheating on me for a year. I loved my wife very much and trusted her. My wife met her lover on vacation. I let my wife and children and relatives go to Florida. She was in Florida for the third time in a year. My wife had previously gone there with her friends. The third time we celebrated her birthday. Our relationship has deteriorated a lot this year, but I didn't understand why all this was happening. We have 2 children, and I trusted her. My wife came across a correspondence with my colleague. It was a girl, but there was nothing but a business conversation. She constantly reproached me with this correspondence. Although later, as it turned out, at this time, she had already started an affair with her lover, but they haven't had sex yet. Because of the situation with the correspondence, I felt very guilty. Therefore, I completely stopped communicating with my colleagues. After that, I began to indulge my wife in everything. Prologue, my family is complete, but Dad died 7 years ago. Once my mother admitted that the director of the factory where she worked was taking care of her. The father was furious, but they did not divorce. My mom realized that she could lose her family and immediately came to her senses. According to her, she could not forgive herself for this act all her life. From my personal memories, at that time I was 6 years old. I remember that my father asked me who I wanted to live with him or with my mother. This question stayed in my head for a long time. My wife's family is mom, stepfather, and sister. Her mother separated from her husband when my wife and her sister were children. They hated their stepfather. He was a bad man. According to my wife, he was spying on them in the shower. My wife does not communicate with her biological father. Although she loved him very much, my wife and I started a relationship at school. But after the 11th grade, we broke up. We both lived in the provinces. I was enrolled at a good university and went to study in the capital. A year later, I returned home and went to a meeting of classmates. At a meeting of classmates, old feelings flared up again, and we resumed our relationship again. But my studies started and I left. We spent every summer together and constantly called each other via video link. The first call for me, once I had problems in a session, sleepless nights and no free time at all. I haven't called her in about a month. Her mother said, "Don't wait, he's gone." And my girlfriend went on a date with another man. But then I solved the problems and called her. My girlfriend asked me for forgiveness, saying that she thought I had left her. I promised my girlfriend that I'll get settled to work and pick her up. I don't think she believed me, but our relationship continued. In general, I'm already in my 3rd year. I find a job and spend my first earned money on a rented apartment. My girlfriend agrees to come and live with me. My girlfriend's mom was against it, but we're starting to live together anyway. The second call is for me. My girlfriend has a male friend. She often went and supported him in difficult times. Our girlfriend confessed everything and said she was tired of sitting alone at home. I was at work and paid little attention to her. In general, she said that they have nothing serious, just friendship. I let go of this situation and everything began to get better. After I graduated from university, we take her mother and sister to live with us. My girlfriend's mother gets a new job and starts earning 5 times more. We are having our first child and we are going to buy an apartment. I really want my house so that my child is comfortable. I offer my mother-in-law to buy a house together because initially I didn't have enough money. In general, we are 50-50 buying a house, getting to know the neighbors and so on. We started a different life. Barbecue with neighbors until the evening and children under the supervision of my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law loved raising my children very much because she didn't spend much time with her children. She didn't have time and worked 2 jobs, but now she has a second chance. After a while, we had a second child. I'm offered a new position at work in another city. I agree and move to another city. I live alone for 2 years now, and every weekend I take the train and go to my family. Our family relations are very good. My first child is going to school. After that, I buy an apartment and we move as a family. My wife constantly wants to come back. Because she doesn't know anyone in the new city, our relationship began to deteriorate. My wife began to dominate our family. I miss this moment. My wife has not worked anywhere for 10 years. I have a lot of debts, and I'm starting to work overtime. After that, our relationship began to deteriorate even more. We were thinking of selling the new apartment and coming back. But it didn't work out. My wife already had a lover at that moment. How did I know? It's very simple. My wife's phone ran out of memory and I started syncing photos. As a result, I came across photos of my wife with some guy. Before that, our relationship was already bad. Even my wife's best friend asked me, "I don't think my wife has someone." I didn't want to believe it. So I yelled at her in a rage. As a result, I couldn't stand it and made a scandal. I showed the photos that I found in my wife's mobile phone. My wife confessed, but I forgave my wife. What happens next? The history of movements is stored in Google. As a result, my wife visited her lover 10 times. She said that she was going to her mother, who stayed to live in a shared house, but she was actually spending time with her lover. My wife has set a password on her mobile phone. But one day, she didn't lock her mobile phone and went into the shower. I pick up phone again and look at the new photos. What do I see? There are a lot of intimate photos of my wife. She was sending intimate photos to this man. I was shocked. My heart was beating very hard, as if it would jump out of my chest. I understand that all this time I was a horned deer, but I love my wife very much and continued to be a deer with horns. I'm sending my wife to Florida to think about her behavior. I offer different options to my wife, that after she returns, she continues to live in the city where our children study. She agrees, but after a while, someone talked her out of it. My wife shouts, "Take the documents from school." She wanted to return to her mother's common home. I hope that after the trip, my wife will change her mind. I felt very bad because I didn't know how to live without her. After Florida, my wife goes with her lover to her hometown to establish a relationship with her biological father. All our relatives are shocked by what is happening. Everyone takes my side, even my wife's mother, and my wife's mother-in-law and sister. All the relatives think that my wife has gone mad. My wife fights with all her relatives, including her own mother. I try to keep friendly relations with my wife. At the same time, my wife is trying to deceive me. She wants me to leave them our common home. She puts pressure on Pity and says that our children are very happy there. I ask her, what about my financial debts? She calmly replies that you can handle the debts yourself. You're a man. After a while, she admitted her guilt with the words, "You're right, but we don't have a future," because she loves another man. I take my children and go to my mother. We call each other every day. I send her photos of our children and we communicate well. I am very glad that my wife is waiting for us at home. But in fact, after our departure, she never spent the night in our house. I learned this from my neighbor. A neighbor told me to stop living in the illusion. In general, in a rage, I return home to talk face to face with my wife. For the first time in my life, I couldn't help myself. In general, we have a strong scandal. We seem to come to the conclusion that we are going to our apartment together because the children must go to school. I left first and my wife writes me messages that she takes tickets. After a while, she writes again that we're not going because she is in the hospital. I don't understand what's going on. As it turned out, she quarreled with her lover and he forbade her to drive to me. In general, my wife is like a rag and does not decide anything in her life. I saw my wife's lover. He is 7 years older than her. My wife's lover has a family, but he says he's getting a divorce. I do not know what my wife found in him. She ran after him like a dog. In general, I realized my mistakes. After a while, I felt better and the hatred for my wife subsided. The children stayed with me. I see them reaching out to me. I see that my children are happy with me. I'm very happy with my children myself. Unfortunately, the emotional connection of children with their mother tends to zero. She blames the children for not writing her and not calling. Because of this, children take offense at their mother and cry. I do not prevent them from communicating with their mother. She doesn't talk to me. Apparently, someone gave her advice to ignore me. One day, I brought the children to my wife. She took the kids, and they went to my wife's best friend. I find a man's umbrella in the trunk of our car. I couldn't help myself and threw it out. After a while, my wife brings the kids and asks, "Where is the umbrella?" I tell her that the umbrella broke and I threw it away. At this moment, my wife grabs a pair of scissors and starts cutting my bag into pieces. We start a scandal in front of our children. The children start crying and they are hysterical. I take the children away with tears in my eyes. Before that, I thought they were happy with me. After an hour of our journey, the children calmed down. I asked my children, "Why were you crying and didn't want to go home with me? Why did they say nasty things about me?" They said that Mom was crying, so we were crying. In general, after 15 minutes, we sing a song together and had fun driving home. On the way home, the daughter says that she knows everything. Then my son continued the dialogue. "Dad, we think that when you fight with Mom, it's our fault, but it's not true. It's not our fault." It's like a knife to my heart from these words. I say that we love them very much, but the daughter strikes a second blow to my heart. Mom told me that she doesn't love you anymore because she loves another man. My children know my wife's lover. This man took our mother for a ride on his sports motorcycle, and Mom lied to Dad that she was going to her best friend. In fact, our mother was going to this man. This is what a 10-year-old child tells me. Can you imagine? I was shocked. I didn't understand why our children should know this in such detail. My daughter also told me that he was going to buy my wife an apartment so that she and her children live there. I do not know how financially secure he is. What about our children? My wife said that they should live with me for now and finish their studies. During this time, my wife will find a job and pick them up. I feel that I'm very attached to my children. My children need care and love more than ever now. I'm afraid to give my children to my wife because I can't understand what's going on in my wife's head. She makes scandals with me and my mother-in-law every time she comes. She's resentful of life. I can't remember the last time I saw a smile on her face. I ask for advice on how to put my wife in her place so that she takes off her crown from her head, so that she would stop being rude to me and her mother. Our children need a mother. I love my children very much and we have a good time every day. My mom moved in with me and helps me when I'm at work. I am not sure that my children will be fine with my wife. According to rumors, my wife broke up with her lover. I don't even know where she's going to live with our kids. I have a house, an apartment, and everything is wonderful. In general, I decided to file for divorce and take the children to myself. Do you think I made the right choice? I've hired a good lawyer, but if my children say that it will be better for them to live with their mother, I will not forcibly keep them with me. That's the story. If you liked it, give a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel in order not to miss new videos. Now let's move on to the opinion of the author of the channel. Opinions of the author of the channel. By tradition, I want to wish strength and patience to the main character. After listening to your story, I realized that you made a lot of mistakes. You forgave your wife everything you could. Your significance balance has dropped to 0. In the eyes of your wife, you have become a rag. That's why she was looking for another man for herself. That's why your wife treated you disrespectfully. You made the right choice. Don't bring your wife back to the family. Take my word for it. Nothing good will come of it. Start a new life and go ahead. Your children are already beginning to understand everything. After a while, they will grow up and understand everything to the very end. You are right. Let the children make the choice themselves. It seems to me that their choice will be in your direction. You said that your wife is offended by life. That's the way it is. She will never be happy. I do not know why, but it always happens to people who betray, especially with the female sex. They then cannot find a worthy replacement. If you have watched to the end, I want to say thank you very much. I love you all. Thank you for joining me on this exciting journey of love, betrayal, and redemption. I appreciate your support and encourage you to subscribe, like, and share this story. Your participation and feedback are invaluable for shaping our content and promoting mutual understanding and community growth. Until we meet again.